Random House Audible presents The Riddle of the Compass, the invention that changed the world, by Amir D. Aczel, read for you by Henry Levya. Preface. The latter part of the 13th century marked a new beginning in world history. If the 20th century was the time of the information revolution, and the 18th century was the start of the Industrial Revolution, then the end of the 13th century could rightly be called the beginning of the Commercial Revolution. Within a few decades of 1280, the world saw a dramatic rise in trade, and with it, increased prosperity for maritime powers such as Venice, Spain, and Britain. A single invention, the magnetic compass, made this possible. The compass was the first instrument that allowed navigators at sea, on land, and much later in the air to determine their direction quickly and accurately at any time of the day or night and under almost any conditions. This allowed goods to be transported efficiently and reliably across the seas and opened up the world to maritime exploration. The Earth would never be seen the same way again. The compass was therefore the most important technological invention since the wheel. With the exception of ancient weighing scales, the compass was also the first mechanical measuring device ever invented, as well as the first instrument with a pointer allowing a person to visualize a measurement, in this case, a direction. The importance of the magnetic compass cannot be overestimated. Today, 700 years after the emergence of the compass with a compass card indicating directions, and a millennium or longer since the invention of the simpler needle compass, every ship carries a magnetic compass at least as a backup for its electronic instruments. But the magnetic compass was not only a celebrated technological and scientific invention. It also became a metaphor in poetry and has long been a device in mystical investigations and divinations. Since the dawn of civilization, people have been fascinated with the natural phenomenon of magnetism. The lodestone, because of its puzzling ability to exert force at a distance on metallic objects, was believed to possess mysterious supernatural properties. Centuries before the compass was known in the West, Chinese diviners used a magnetic compass to help make decisions and prophecies. In Europe, especially around the Mediterranean basin, cults that used magnetic devices also flourished. The origins of the compass are shrouded in mystery, or rather, the story of the compass is a series of mysteries which have not, until now, been satisfactorily addressed. The tale of the invention of the magnetic compass spans the breadth of human civilization. Geographically, the story traverses the world, from China to the Mediterranean, Scandinavia, Arabia, Africa, and the New World. As a history, the story covers events that took place in ancient times, during the medieval era, and that continue to our own time. This audiobook explores the series of riddles that make up the story of the compass, the mysteries of the invention that changed navigation, commerce, and the world economy. The compass works because the Earth is a giant magnet. A magnet is an object that induces a magnetic field. This field is a region of space surrounding the magnet within which invisible lines of force exist that run between 2 points called the magnet's north and south poles. A magnetic field is induced every time electrons move, such as when an electric current flows. Natural magnets, such as the lodestone, derive their magnetism from the peculiar way in which the electrons move within them. The magnetic field exerts a pulling action on iron and similar elements and either attracts or repels other magnets, depending on their orientation. Like poles repel, unlike poles attract. If a magnet is brought into a magnetic field, assuming it can move freely, it will align itself with the new magnetic field. The Earth's core of molten iron swirls around in a spherical pattern, deep under the surface. The currents generated as this mass of liquid iron rotates below the Earth's crust create a dynamo action whose result is magnetism. These currents turn the entire Earth into a giant magnet, with a magnetic field and a north and south pole. The compass needle is a small magnet suspended in air or water so it can rotate freely and orient itself. This magnet reacts to the magnetic field produced by the huge magnet, the Earth. and aligns itself accordingly. Earth's magnetic north pole was not always in the direction we know as north, and Earth's magnetic south pole was not always to the south. The Earth's polarity will remain constant for hundreds of thousands of years, and then suddenly switch. In such a switch, the north magnetic pole becomes the south magnetic pole, and vice versa. Scientists have deduced the existence of this mysterious phenomenon by studying geological sediments of elements that align themselves with the magnetic field of the Earth and estimating the time when these elements were free to move and orient themselves before solidifying in place. We don't know what causes the switches in the polarity of the planet, or when the next reversal might take place. But if you sailed a ship 300,000 years ago, before the last switch in the Earth's polarity, your compass needle would have pointed south instead of north. The compass is a reliable instrument, but some factors affect its performance. The Earth's magnetic north pole deviates somewhat from the Earth's true geographic north pole. This deviation from true north changes from place to place and over time. Aided by scientific tables and charts, however, a navigator can correct the relatively small error introduced by the difference between magnetic north and geographic north and navigate accurately. Metal objects aboard ship may also cause a compass to deviate from Earth's magnetic north. This deviation can be corrected by adjusting the compass to its surroundings, most often by the placement of two large metal balls on its sides. Once these corrections are made, the magnetic compass is a very reliable tool in navigation. How did people discover that a magnetic needle suspended in air or water could be used to indicate the north? Where did the idea of north, south, east, and west originate? And how did mariners learn to use these directions? How did sailors navigate the seas before the advent of the compass? And how did they begin to use the compass for navigation? These are some of the riddles we will attempt to solve in this audiobook. The story of the compass is a great tale of human ingenuity. It is a story of invention, innovation, opportunity, and capitalism. It is an account of how one civilization made an important invention and how another civilization on the other side of the world put that invention to use, promoting trade and creating wealth. The story of the compass is the story of human civilization and its ability to flourish and prosper by invention and opportunity, by developing a technology and exploiting its promise. Chapter 1. Odyssey. I first became interested in the compass when I was a child. I grew up on a passenger ship in the Mediterranean. My father was the ship's captain. I spent all of my childhood years aboard ship, with the exception of the few months each year I stayed ashore attending school. When out to sea, I made up missed work by correspondence with my teachers. Somehow, I managed to complete my education this way. But on board the ship, I learned other things. When I was 10, my father taught me how to steer a ship. A crew member brought me a little stool so I could reach the wheel. First, my father held the wheel with me. Then I learned to steer by myself, following my captain's commands. "Port 10, my father would order. "Port 10, sir," I'd respond and steer. "Starboard 5, he would call. "Starboard 5, I'd repeat, and turn the wheel. Then came the harder work. "Steady as she goes," my father would order, and I would have to use the ship's compass to keep the course precisely to the one shown at the moment my father issued the command. This was difficult. A ship is not a car, as I'd learned years later when I reached legal driving age. A ship responds slowly and has inertia. Even when the rudder points straight, the ship will continue to turn if it has already started the motion. So to stop the turn, you have to steer the other way until the ship responds. Then you have to turn the wheel in the opposite direction in anticipation of stopping the ship's turn at the point you need to have it steady. Steering by compass is both an art and a science, as I learned at the age of 10. As the years went by, I developed a feel for the compass and the wheel. Appreciating my father's confidence in me, this was a ship with 700 people on board, I worked hard to excel. Many years later, I can still hear in my mind the ticking of the compass degree by degree as the ship turned. The pace of the ticking.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?